Hello, welcome to An Alien Perspective. I am your host, Vulcan the Irregular. This is the show where we always punch up, never punch down, cracking the social consensus and offering eccentric social criticism for strange times. Today I'm going to talk to you about grammar. Do you love your grammar? Do you sleep with your grammar beside you? Do you tend to it? Do you fuss over your grammar? Do you correct other people's grammar? Are you trying to catch me in a grammatical faux pas as I speak? Have I dangled a participle? Have I left a preposition unattended at the end of the sentence? Such are the questions which are the life of the grammar lover. And I'm going to criticize such a life rather harshly. I'm going to say that your grammar is vapid and empty. Now, I'm not saying this because I think we should just arrange words in any old way, however one feels. I'm saying learn the grammar, learn the participles, diagram the sentences, learn when to use the colon and when the semicolon and when the bracket and when the dash, learn the APA and the MLA formatting, learn it all. Learn the apostrophe S and the S apostrophe. Learn the grammar. Have it all. And then go learn another language. Go learn French. Go learn Swahili. Learn Chinese. Learn that these grammatical forms to which you've become so attached are, in a sense, entirely arbitrary. They could be easily replaced and substituted and are just one way in which language could work. That they are a convention and not the true reality. That there are other people across the world tending to an entirely different set of rules just as meticulously as you, and that they are not incorrect, and that merely all you are doing is trying to ensure a certain standardization of communication, which is not a bad goal. It is important for clarity, but it is not, let's say, the true importance of grammar. The true importance of grammar comes from an appreciation of the meaning of how words work together. Right? Right. So, you learn the boy catches the ball. And you learn the subject, the boy, and the verb is the action verb, catches, and the ball is the object. Very, very good. And you learn the proper way to say it, right? But then, what if someone were to say, the ball the boy catches? Or catches the ball the boy? What if the word order were to be changed? Right? This is a possibility in another language. Uh, Many languages use different forms of word order. And English grammar in particular is so dependent on word order that you would come across these innovative ways of speaking and you would say, well, that's just wrong. That's just nonsensical. That's ungrammatical. But that's just an empty protest. You need to expand your mind beyond the grammar. You need to look at the way in which the words are interrelating to each other and realize that it could be changed, right? Now, if you do know your grammar, and you know your grammar very well, and you hear somebody speaking ungrammatically, you, as a competent user of the English language, should be able to interpret what they're saying, right? It shouldn't be an affront to your sensibilities. The idea that the words might be put together in a different way. Now, the standardization exists, it's a thing, but it should be recognized as just that, a standardization. Not the only way of speaking, not the only way of teaching the language, because you learn the grammar so as to transcend the grammar. And then you encounter Arabic, and the verb is in a different part of the sentence. You encounter any ancient language, and the words have different endings. It's a completely different system of grammar. This was not the be-all, end-all. And sometimes the grammarians, they get very, very, very self-righteous. They forget themselves. They forget their use, their convention of the words as just one possibility of many. And they're positively annoyed at the very thought of improper grammar. And this is very interesting because it's become an acceptable form of classism, of a way of saying, oh, that person doesn't speak correctly. I don't have to take their ideas seriously. Right? All of these rules and standardizations which exist to create a common culture can be used equally to exclude people who are very often simply not accustomed to the grammatical forms which are being employed. You can think of it in terms of the acquisition of English as a second language. That's certainly an area in which this happens. You could take somebody who is highly educated in their native tongue, is speaking a second language, and if their command of the grammatical form seems imperfect, they seem like they don't know what they're talking about. They are somewhat discredited, which is really quite the opposite of what grammar is meant to do. It's supposed to bring us into communications. And why do we need these rules anyway? Well, it's for clarity, right? If I am going to go around making all sorts of ambiguous statements, if the language didn't have a sense in which the subject, object, and verb were to regularly appear, then, ball, the man throws. Right? Does the ball throw the man, or does the man throw the ball? You could figure it out still. But there's some ambiguity there. Maybe we change the verb around. Bear, the man eats. Is the bear eating the man, or is the man eating the bear? You have to learn that from the way the words typically appear. What's the word order? So we have it for clarity, but there's a sort of grammatical bullying that happens, right? That's sort of no accident that people now have this anxiety about grammar, that is a such a term as a grammar Nazi, somebody who is overly zealous in the enforcement of these standards. And go ahead and do that if that's something that appeals to you. But please then also go and learn Afrikaans, right? And report back to me on the state of your Afrikaner grammar. Um, it's sort of a very easy thing that people can latch onto and use to beat other people over the head with as a sort of club. Um, but yeah, it's also interesting because the study of grammar is incredibly boring in grade schools. Um, you have to. It's taught as this set of rules, and that you have to sort of just commit to memory. But I think it would be very much more interesting if there was some degree of ambiguity and difficulty introduced into it. If you had situations where incorrect grammar was being employed, or just weird situations like strange poetic passage, where you don't know what the subject is of the sentence or the object uh, or the verb, and you have to figure it out, right? Or examples where you have ambiguous uh, uses of a preposition, say, or a preposition without any object. Learn the grammar from the weird, difficult cases um, that sort of make you realize its necessity. Find those sort of strange cases and build from it, rather than just sort of starting with the standard and repeating it. Right? It's sort of like the Chat GPT approach to grammar, where you just take the same formula of the language and repeat it over and over. Um, but to really use a language is to push its boundaries, right? This is sort of one of those situations where the people that are sort of average in the middle are very self confident about their use of language, and they're often very self confident in correcting other people, like, is this a word? Like, oh yeah, that's a word. Okay, cool. But you get sort of at the extremes, people who are not as educated are often more innovative in how they use their language. Just, oh, that whatchamacallit over there, right? Or you just sort of assign a word to something that doesn't really exist, right? Maybe you take, a word like convention and you add an itty to it, conventionality. You might have to second guess that. Is that a real word? I mean, why shouldn't I be empowered to make these new words? So that's sort of at the other extreme. People are highly competent with the use of language, often find language is not enough for them to express what they want, the current conventions and set of words that they are assigned. So they're always, you want to make up a new term, right? I mean, so many famous thinkers in history coin a new term for what they're trying to get at, a neologism. But when your sort of boorish uncle does that at Thanksgiving, it's like a sitcom moment, you know, uh, when he talks about the forky thing that's used to poke the turkey, right? I mean, make up new words, break the rules, ruffle some feathers. Grammar is stupid. That's all I've got for you. Just, you know, uh, teach your kids some grammar. Um, but if they're really gonna get grammar, they're also going to not need it. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for listening to An Alien Perspective. I'm your host, Vulcan the Irregular. This is the show where we always punch up, never punch down, cracking the social consensus and offering eccentric social criticism for strange times. Thank you for listening.